Incredible bond revealed. Soldier and K9 discover heartwarming call for help from a little girl. Jake Thompson walked the streets of his hometown with a heaviness that felt almost unbearable. It wasn't just the weight of his green army jacket pressed against his back, it was the memories that haunted him, clutching tightly to his heart like a rusted shackle. At 34, he was a man marked by battles fought far from this quiet, rural community. With Max, his loyal German shepherd, jogging at his side, he greeted an evening bathed in the warm glow of autumn colors while trying to shake off the shadows of his past. As they approached the local park, laughter echoed off the swings and slides where kids played in a world untouched by war. Jake felt a pang of longing. It used to be so simple, the barbecues and friendly waves from neighbors. Now he felt like an outsider, lost in a community so familiar yet foreign, like a forgotten photo in an album. With a gentle toss of a stick, Max dashed into a sea of rustling leaves, his fur a golden blur against the crisp backdrop. Their routine was comforting, but that night, it transformed. Max's sharp nose found something nestled in the grass, a piece of cardboard, worn and crumpled, its letters scrawled in uneven strokes. "Help us," it pleaded. The small note belonged to Lily, an 8-year-old girl with wide, innocent eyes that seemed to glow with hope. The words told of her father's job loss, the threat of losing their home. The desperation resonated deep in Jake's heart, echoing memories of brotherhood and support from his days in service. A spark flickered inside him, a sense of purpose long buried. This wasn't just a girl asking for help, it was a call to arms, a call he felt honored to respond to. But as he stood there, the cool wind on his face, he knew that this challenge wouldn't be easy. He could already hear the skepticism and the murmurs of the townsfolk, many still sizing him up as the soldier who returned, but now seemed lost. Fear nipped at his resolve, but he couldn't ignore the image of Lily's bright eyes, pleading for a miracle. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Determined, Jake approached old friends, seeking help for a fundraiser. However, with each door that shuttered, he felt those old battle wounds reopen. The self-doubt he carried like a shadow loomed darker. Was he still worthy of being a protector? Would his past haunt him enough to keep the community at bay? Each encounter felt like a missing piece of combat gear, vital yet unattainable. One night, sitting silently on the porch with Max, he felt the cold prickling at his skin. He knew he wasn't just fighting against the town's lingering biases. He was battling against his own demons, striving to believe he could bridge the gap between the soldier he once was and the man he now needed to be. The sun fell quickly, leaving behind a talk of courage begging to be harnessed, a challenge lying ahead, and with it, the flicker of hope ignited by a little girl's heart-filled note. Would he rise to the occasion? Or would fear consume him, leaving another battle lost? The next morning, with the sun just beginning to break over the horizon, Jake experienced a sense of rejuvenation. He could almost feel the warmth enveloping him like a comforting embrace, a subtle reminder that change was possible. Max trotted beside him, tail wagging, as if sensing the newfound determination coursing through Jake's veins. Today was different, today he would act. Jake ventured to the heart of town, where friendly waves and nods from folks lining the streets no longer felt foreign. He spotted the local cafe, the Daily Grind, a popular spot where people's minds flowed freely over cups of coffee, sharing news and gossip. Without hesitation, he steered Max toward it. Ahead of him, he could see the regulars gathered, their chatter ringing out like a familiar song. As he entered, Jake caught the attention of Barbara, the cafe owner. Her hair was streaked with gray, but her smile hadn't dulled a bit. "Jake! It's good to see you," she called, wiping her hands on her apron. "Good to be back, Barbara," he replied, his heart beating faster. The atmosphere shifted slightly as old memories stirred among the patrons. He braced himself, prepared for their scrutinizing gazes. With a deep breath, he approached the counter. "I need your help." Barbara's brow furrowed in curiosity. "What is going on?" Jake hesitated, but he couldn't back down now. "It's about Lily. Her family is in trouble. I want to organize a fundraiser to support them. They might lose their home." A soft murmur rippled through the cafe, and Jake sensed the hesitation in the air. Might they dismiss him again? But the sight of Lily's hopeful face surged through him, igniting strength. "Let us get the word out," Barbara replied firmly, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We can start with a bake sale and a raffle. We need to rally our community." Jake's chest swelled at her enthusiasm. "Thank you." As plans began to unfold, others joined in, discussing the event, suggesting ideas, and even volunteering their time. Each new voice was a brick being added to the foundation he was trying to build. The warmth that enveloped him was not merely the sunlight streaming through the windows, it was the feeling of hope. By the time he left the cafe, Jake's spirit lifted, tension slowly melting away. He walked alongside Max, his faithful companion, feeling lighter, as if the burdens he carried were finally starting to ease. As the sun rose higher, illuminating the town in a golden hue, Jake realized that he wasn't alone anymore. The anger and doubt began to feel distant, fading under the promise of unity and support. He could almost hear the laughter of children and the bustling joy of life, echoing from the park where he had found Lily's note. But just when he was beginning to breathe easier, his phone buzzed violently in his pocket. The screen flashed a message from an unknown number. "You don't know what you're getting into, Thompson." Jake's pulse quickened as his thoughts spiraled. Who would send a message like that? As fear knotted in his stomach, a chill ran down his spine. Just when he thought he had a solid plan, a dark shadow loomed on the horizon. Would the walls he'd fought to rebuild actually hold? Jake tightened his grip on Max's leash and squared his shoulders. He felt the suffocating weight of uncertainty. What lay ahead was fraught with challenges he hadn't anticipated. What if his past was stirring again, threatening his newfound purpose? The road ahead was murky, but one thing was for sure, he wouldn't go down without a fight. And with that unsettling thought, he took a determined step forward. What waited for him in the shadows? Jake paused, staring at his phone, the message pulsating in his mind as if it were a living thing. "You don't know what you're getting into." The words were like a taunt, laced with a threat he struggled to understand. Max nudged him, sensing his tension. "It's okay, boy," Jake murmured, though he wasn't sure he believed his own words. He tucked the phone back into his pocket, but the feeling of dread clung to him like a shadow that refused to disappear. He quickened his pace, directing Max towards the park. Maybe the fresh air, the laughter of children, and the promise of community would wash away the unease swirling in his gut. But even as Jake walked, doubts loomed. What if this was all a mistake? What if the community he was counting on didn't have his back? And what about the message? It gnawed at him, like a persistent itch he couldn't scratch. The park was alive with activity. Families dotted the green grass, laughter mingling with the sound of children playing. Jake took a breath, allowing the moment to settle over him like a bomb. He spotted Lily's friends kicking a soccer ball around, and he couldn't help but smile at their joy. That was worth fighting for. "Let us go see what they need," Jake said to Max, and they veered off the path toward the group. As he approached, one of the kids, a boy with tousled hair and a bright red shirt, spotted him. "Hey, Jake. Are you here to play?" Jake chuckled, the tension in his shoulders easing as the boy's enthusiasm reminded him of simpler times. "I've got some stuff to plan for Lily's family," he said, the determination creeping back into his voice. "But maybe I can join for a quick game." The kids cheered, but just then, a distant voice cut through the air, calling out to the group. "Hey! You guys okay?" It was Lily, her voice peppered with a sweetness that seemed to brighten the afternoon. Jake felt a rush of emotions as she ran up, a burst of sunshine wrapped in a pink hoodie. She stopped short when she saw him. "Jake! You're back. I'm here to help you," he said, crouching to her level. "I've been talking to some folks about raising money to help your family. We're going to make sure you don't lose your home." Lily's eyes sparkled with hope, but they quickly clouded with worry. But what if it doesn't work? Jake felt his heart twist. She was so young to carry such uncertainty. "We're going to make it work. Together. You're not alone, Lily." Her small hand found his as they stood there. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes, a connection blooming amidst the chaos of life's challenges. As the children settled into a game, laughter erupted, and Jake felt a surge of energy. He was terrified of the shadows lurking in the corners of his mind, but here, in this moment, he could taste the sweetness of hope. Then, just as easily as hope settled in, doubt returned, creeping through his thoughts like a whisper on the wind. He glanced at his phone. The threat still hung there, unacknowledged yet potent. He brushed it aside, intertwining his focus back to the kids. But would the community stand by him when they needed to? What if that message meant something darker? For now, he squeezed Lily's hand, locking eyes with her. She was his anchor. They would fight together, come what may. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows around them, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that something was brewing just beneath the surface. He smiled at the kids, but deep down, he sensed a brewing storm. What other secrets lurked just around the corner, ready to challenge everything he was trying to build? The game kicked off with shouts of excitement, the kids darting and laughing as the sun began to paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. Jake stood at the edge, watching them dive into another world of carefree joy. But even as their laughter filled the air, his mind drifted back to the message. It felt like a storm cloud hanging low, ready to unleash chaos. "Hey, Jake," one of the girls called, tugging at his shirt. "Come on. You have to be on our team." Jake chuckled and jogged over, a smile breaking through his worries. All right. But remember, I'm rusty." As he joined in, there was a fleeting moment when laughter filled his heart, rising up against the weight that clung to him. He ran and kicked, dodging kids like a kid himself. It was freeing. It reminded him of how important it was to fight for the light in the darkest times, but then something shifted in the air. One of the older kids stood at the sidelines, fiddling with his phone, his brow furrowed. Jake caught the kid's eye, noticing the urgency there. When the boy approached him, Jake felt an uneasy chill sweep over the sunny park. "Jake, can we talk?" the boy asked, lowering his voice. Jake glanced at Lily, who was lost in the game, her laughter ringing like music. "Sure, what's up?" he replied, stepping aside with the boy. "It's about Lily's situation," he said cautiously. "A rumor's been going around. People are saying something bad might happen." Jake's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" The boy hesitated, glancing over his shoulder. "There are some guys at the community center. They've been saying things, like they don't want her family to get help. Like they want them out of here." Every word felt like a blow to Jake. His heart raced, a surge of protective instinct flaring within him. "Who are these guys?" "I don't know. But they've been throwing around threats." "I just thought you should know." "Thanks for telling me," Jake said, forcing a calmness he didn't feel. He wanted to protect Lily, but how? He looked back at the field. Lily's laughter turned the horrors of the world into soft echoes, but now a darkness drifted closer. With a firm grip on Max's leash, Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on him. "I have to talk to the community," he said, more to himself than the boy. "We can't let this happen." Nodding, the boy backed away, leaving Jake with a torrent of thoughts. The park that felt vibrant just moments ago now felt like a trap, the shadows stretching longer on the green grass that he walked back to the game, drawn to the laughter but also the urgency swelling in his chest. Lily needed hope, and he had to show her it wasn't just a distant dream. Why all ready for a rematch? Jake called, wiping sweat from his brow. The kids cheered enthusiastically, but he couldn't shake the weight of what he had just learned. The game started up again. Every kick of the ball echoed his resolve. He would fight for her. Whatever it took. Moments later, a chirp from his pocket pulled him away from the joyous energy around him. He whipped out his phone, holding his breath. Another message blinked on the screen. You should have let it go, this one to end well. A shiver ran down his spine. He looked up, scanning the park as a sense of danger prickled at his skin. The laughter around him felt distant, muffled by the brewing storm in his heart. Should he confront this threat directly? What if that meant risking everything he was trying to build? As he stood there, pulse racing, he felt Lily's hand tugging him back to the game, her trusting eyes shining. How could he let her down? With renewed determination, he joined the game, but the shadows loomed closer. Could he really protect her, or would the storm break soon, leaving chaos in its wake? The question spiraled in his mind as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an otherworldly glow over the field. A storm was brewing, and deep down, he knew it was only a matter of time before it struck. The game continued around Jake, but he felt like he was moving through thick fog. Each kick, each cheer was peeking through a veil of worry that wrapped around his heart. He laughed with the kids, but he kept glancing at the sidelines, weighing the news he had just received. Lily was in the zone, her ponytail bouncing as she chased the ball. Her joy poured out with every gleeful shout. It twisted Jake's insides even more. He wanted to be her protector, her hero, but he feared that dark clouds were hanging low, ready to unleash their fury. As he joined the fray again, a knot formed in his stomach. The whispers of the older kids echoed in his mind, threatening to drown out the laughter. And then, in a moment of brutal clarity, he felt it. He had to dig deeper. He had to uncover what was behind the rumors, to protect not just Lily but everyone around him. All right, focus up. Let us play. He shouted, trying to dispel the shadows creeping into his mind, but with every playful shove and giggle, that message loomed larger. You should have let it go. What was it? Who were these people? The urgent questions pressed like lead weights. As the game wound down, Lily approached him, her face flushed with excitement. Did you see me score that goal? I think we totally crushed. She beamed with pride, oblivious to the thunder growing in Jake's chest. Yeah, you were amazing. He forced a genuine smile, pushing the darkness back for her sake, but deep down, he knew he had to act. As the kids settled down, grabbing drinks, Jake felt a surge of brave determination. Without wasting another moment, he excused himself. I'll be right back. He called out, his heart pounding as he glanced between the rambunctious laughter and the silent woods beyond. He moved swiftly toward the community center. The cool evening air brushed against his skin, bringing clarity with every step. He needed answers, and he needed to confront this fear head-on before it became larger than life. Upon reaching the entrance, he saw a small group gathered outside, their voices hushed but urgent. As he drew closer, snippets of conversation reached his ears, men discussing the community, future plans, everything that could endanger Lily and others like her. They sounded confident, almost smug in their intentions. Hey! Jake called, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. The group turned to face him, their expressions shifting from surprise to mockery. I need to know what is going on here, he said, forcing himself to stand tall. They laughed, but there was a tension crackling in the air. And who are you to question us? One of them sneered. Jake's heart raced, but beneath that fear, fire stirred within him. I'm someone who cares, he shot back, anger igniting a spark inside him. You're threatening kids who just want to live their lives. Their laughter died down, but Jake could see their eyes narrow into calculating slits. We'll see about that, one of them murmured, and dread washed over Jake. He felt the urgency of the moment. If they succeeded, it wouldn't just impact Lily. His breath quickened and, in that moment of raw vulnerability, a fierce resolve filled him. He had to fight. Not just for himself, but for Lily and every kid who deserved a safe place to grow up. As he turned away from the group, a new message pinged on his phone. "You really shouldn't have done that. They won't forget." The words echoed in his mind as he hurried back towards the park. Each step felt heavier, the weight of his decision pressing down on him, yet somehow bolder too. What was about to unfold would change everything. Could Jake rally the community, turn their fear into strength, and shield Lily from this impending storm? As he raced back, the questions loomed large, but one thing was certain: he wasn't going to back down without a fight. Jake sprinted down the path, the cool evening breeze brushing against his cheeks, making him feel hyper-aware of the unfolding danger. He couldn't shake the feeling that the air had thickened, each breath becoming a reminder of what was at stake. The sound of laughter from the kids grew quieter as he neared the park again, but the vibrant energy around him felt overshadowed by the dark words he'd just heard from that group. As he approached, he spotted Lily and her friends huddled around a picnic table, sipping juice boxes decorated with bright colors. Their carefree chatter seemed unaware of the storm brewing just outside their bubble. But Jake felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. How could he protect them? He had barely begun to piece together the motives of those men, yet he was painfully aware that staying silent was not an option. He had to act. But how? "Hey, guys," he called, forcing a smile as he joined them. "What's the plan for the rest of the night?" "More games," Lily shouted, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "We can have a mini tournament." "Sounds good," Jake replied, trying to match her excitement. Yet, as he spoke, doubt gnawed at him. His heart raced. How could they play games, knowing what was lurking just around the corner? "Hey, Jake," one of the other kids interrupted. "You should play goalie. You're like, super good." They all laughed, but Jake felt a knot tighten in his gut. He didn't feel super good. He felt like a fraud. "Yeah, maybe later," he replied, looking at Lily. "But I have to talk to your parents about something first." Her face fell just a bit. Jake could see the worry in her eyes as she took a step closer. "You're not going to tell them something bad, right?" His heart squeezed. How could he answer her? "I just need to make sure everything's okay. You know, being careful and all," he said, trying to sound light. Lily nodded, but the frown didn't leave her face. "Don't worry, okay? I'll be right back." He forced a grin and then turned toward the community center. He needed to find Mr. Thompson, the local council member and a trusted figure among the parents. If anyone could help shine a light on the situation, it was him. As he stepped into the center, he noticed a few folks milling about, but Mr. Thompson was nowhere in sight. Instead, he saw Betty, the kind librarian, sorting through some paperwork. "Betty, have you seen Mr. Thompson?" He approached her, urgency in his voice. "Oh, he's just outside talking to some folks." She gestured toward the door. "Is something wrong?" Jake hesitated, the truth heavy in his throat. Instead of answering, he rushed outside, the cool air hitting his face again. When he stepped into the open, the shadows seemed to stretch longer. The conversation from earlier hung over him like a shroud. He spotted Mr. Thompson's familiar figure, along with a few others, deep in discussion. But something about it felt off. Jake took a few steps closer, straining to catch what they were saying. Low murmurings turned to bursts of laughter that made his stomach turn. Just then, he heard the unmistakable shrill sound of a ringtone that shattered the uneasy calm. It was his phone vibrating fiercely in his pocket. Tension surged through him as he fished it out. A new message, this time from an unknown number, flashed across the screen. "We know who you are." "We're watching." Panic surged through Jake's veins. His hands shook, and he glanced back toward Lily and her friends, still blissfully laughing under the fading sunlight. Was he too late to protect them? He needed to get them out of the park, but how could he do that without alarming them? Questions raced through his mind, each more pressing than the last. Jake felt that surge of determination one last time. He had to act before the shadows took their toll. Lily deserved better, the entire community did. Just then, he heard footsteps approaching. A figure loomed from the shadows, their features hidden. Was this person a friend or foe? Jake held his breath, ready to stand his ground. What would they say? Would the truth finally come to light? He felt a tightness in his chest as the figure stepped into the light. Jake's pulse quickened as the figure emerged from the darkness. It was a man in his 30s, disheveled and wearing a faded baseball cap. His clothes were stained, but what caught Jake's attention were his eyes, wide and frantic, yet pleading. "Hey, kid. You gotta listen to me," the man said, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to be followed. Jake's heart pounded in response. "Who are you? What do you want?" "Mike. I'm just trying to help. You've got to get the kids out of here. Now." "Why?" Jake felt the weight of Mike's urgency. The laughter from the picnic table echoed, a stark reminder of what was at stake. "There are people looking for you," Mike said, his voice lowering. "Not just you, but everyone, especially the kids. They don't care who gets hurt. You have to warn them." Jake took a shaky breath, the realization settling heavy in his chest. "What do you know?" "Too much." Mike waved his hand dismissively, eager and filled with a nervous energy. "I overheard them planning something. I was there when they mentioned the kids. I had to run. I can't let them hurt anyone." "What do they want?" Jake was desperate for knowledge, but dread tangled with his hope. "I don't know all the details, but it has to do with leverage, power, and they think they can use the kids to achieve it." The words hung in the air, thickening with each heartbeat. "You need to warn them." Jake's throat went dry. He turned back toward the picnic table, where Lily remained oblivious to the growing darkness. "How am I supposed to get them out of here without freaking them out?" "Make it a game. Kids love games, right? Just say it's time to go. You're good at that." The idea was both a blessing and a curse. "Yeah, but I need more than a distraction. I need an actual plan." As if hearing his thoughts, Mike said, "Let me help. I can create the diversion. While I keep them busy, you can get them away from here." Before Jake could reply, Mike began pacing, clearly immersed in his own racing mind. Jake felt the gravity of the moment. Save Lily and her friends or get caught in the crossfire? It shouldn't even be a choice. "Fine," Jake replied, his voice steadying. "But you've got to be quick about it." Mike nodded, a flicker of determination sparking in his eyes as he glanced once more at the shadows. "Okay, I'll create noise just outside the park. That'll pull their attention away from you when the time comes." Jake turned back towards Lily, giving her a wave to gather her friends. "Hey, guys. Time for a special game." His heart ached as he saw their bright faces. Each child was so innocent, so full of joy. "What game?" Lily asked brightly, bounding over to him, her enthusiasm alight in the growing gloom. A treasure hunt." Jake improvised, forcing a smile when what he really felt was terror. "We're going to search for hidden pathways around the park. It's going to be awesome." "Treasure hunt?" The kids cheered, and for a brief moment, Jake felt a flutter of relief. But it was fleeting, drowned out by the reality of their situation. "Let us go." Jake pressed, motioning for them to follow him, his eyes darting back towards Mike. The time to act was now. As Jake led the kids away from their original spot, laughter blossomed around him. He was grateful for their innocence, but the darkness lingered in the corners of his mind. Where was Mike? Would he really be able to create the diversion? Suddenly, A loud crash echoed through the park, a symphony of shouts and chaos that froze Jake in place. "Keep moving," he urged, pushing the kids ahead, though his own heart raced, pulsing with dread. As the sounds of confusion grew, Jake's mind whirled. What if this was all a trap? But he had come too far to turn back. Yet, as they broke through the trees, something told Jake they weren't out of the woods yet. A new whisper of danger lurked. What awaited them just beyond the path? Branches cracked underfoot as Jake and the children hurried deeper into the park's thicket. Their laughter, once innocent and carefree, slowly faded into an uneasy silence. The sounds from the picnic area, sudden shouts and the sharp edges of panic echoed unsettlingly around them. Whispering fears crawled into Jake's mind, threatening to drown him. "Jake?" Lily's voice broke through. "Are we really going to find treasure?" "Absolutely," he managed, forcing cheer into his tone. He felt the weight of the kids' eyes on him. "The treasure is a secret hiding spot just a little further. Just a fun little adventure." Each word felt like a tiny stone, piled upon his already heavy heart. What an adventure this was turning into. The path twisted ahead, overgrown and shadowy, where only flickers of dying daylight danced through the leaves. As Jake led the way, every rustle sent his heart racing. He glanced back, catching glimpses of trust in their eyes, but he couldn't shake his growing sense of dread. Suddenly, a faint crack echoed from behind them, too close. The kids stopped in their tracks, eyes widening. Jake's stomach churned. He had to keep them moving. "All right, gang," Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. "This is part of the adventure. We are going to find some secret paths, and they might be a little spooky." "Spooky?" one of the boys squeaked, fear knitting his brow together. "Yeah. But that makes it exciting." Jake shot back, pushing his arms wide in a mock attempt at enthusiasm. The kids clung together, whispering, but following him nonetheless. But as they advanced, the chaos behind only intensified, a chorus of raised voices and pounding footsteps that made Jake's heart race faster. He knew Mike needed time. He could feel it. They needed to get to safety now. "Let us go faster," Jake called, pushing the kids to quicken their pace. They scrambled after him, adrenaline fueling their small legs. He wove in and out among the trees, grabbing fleeting moments of encouragement from the fleeting whispers of hope behind him. Just as they reached a clearing, a shadow darted past. Jake's pulse exploded in his throat. "Hide!" he shouted, instinctively dropping to a crouch behind a tangle of brush, pulling the kids down with him. Breathless, they huddled close. Heart hammering, Jake pressed his back against the cool bark of a tree. "Stay quiet," he whispered, but the air around them felt electric with fear. He cautiously peeked through the leaves. As he scanned the area, he noticed two figures emerging from the trees. They appeared tense, scanning the surroundings like hunters on a prowl. At that moment, Jake recognized one of the faces. A chill ran through him. The man in the baseball cap had been right. The danger was real. "Jake?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. He could feel her small frame shake against his. He focused on the figures ahead. He had to stay calm for her. "We'll be okay," he promised, though his own heart sank. Suddenly, a loud shout burst through the air. come out, wherever you are." The voice rang with a menacing glee. Jake's mind raced. He had to think fast. The kids' safety depended on it. They couldn't stay hidden forever. "Okay, listen up." He leaned close to the trembling group. "When I say go, I need you all to run, understand?" "But where?" one of the kids asked, fear rising like a tide. "Anywhere but here. Promise me you'll run." He looked into their wide eyes, desperation pulling at him. "Now." With that, Jake bolted from the thicket, leading them away, heart pounding, frantic footsteps echoing around them. But as they dashed down the path, Jake heard the sharp rustle of pursuit picking up behind them. The panic twisted his stomach. Would they make it out? What would happen if they got caught? The looming question haunted him: how far could they really run before the darkness caught up with them? Branches whipped at their faces as they raced through the dense underbrush. Jake pushed ahead, urging the kids forward despite the fear gripping him like a vice. Every snap of a twig from behind felt like footsteps closing in, a reminder that their fleeting moment of safety was slipping away. "Keep running!" he shouted, his lungs burning. The kids were panting, small legs scrambling to keep up. Jake could feel Lily's hand clasping tightly around his own, her grip a mix of dread and determination. They stumbled into a small clearing, a patch of sunlight filtering through the trees. Without thinking, Jake turned to scan the area. His heart sank as he spotted a massive boulder by the tree line. It could be a good shelter, but there was no time to waste. "Over there." He pointed. "Behind the boulder. Quick!" The children darted toward the rocky outcrop, their breaths labored and matching the racing rhythm of Jake's heart. As they crouched behind the boulder, Jake's mind raced, piecing together their situation. "Are they gone?" one of the boys whispered, eyes wide with confusion. Jake had no way of knowing. Every second felt like an eternity, the suffocating weight of uncertainty pressing down on him. He held a finger to his lips, signaling for silence. Within moments, they could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps drawing closer. Jake's pulse quickened, his instincts screaming to protect the kids huddled close. Peering around the boulder, he saw the two figures emerge from the surrounding trees. They moved with purpose, eyes scanning the ground, hunting. With a shiver, Jake realized they were just as dangerous as he feared. His heart hammered in his chest. If they found them? No. He couldn't let that happen. "Stay quiet," he whispered urgently, squeezing Lily's hand. "Listen to me. As soon as they pass, we'll make a break for that thicket over there." He narrowed his gaze, pointing toward a dense cluster of bushes ahead. "Just a little further, okay?" Nods and tiny murmurs of agreement echoed through the group. Jake swallowed hard, anxiety clawing at his throat. He had become their protector, but what if he couldn't keep them safe? Each moment felt like a cruel test of his resolve. He couldn't afford to fail. Suddenly, the men halted just a few feet away, their voices gruff and low. "They must be around here somewhere," one of them growled. "They couldn't have gone far." Jake held his breath, willing his heart to quiet. Hope flickered within him, a fragile thing, but it was there. The more the men searched, the better their chance to slip away unnoticed. "Let us check there," the other one motioned towards the exact spot where they hid. Panic surged within Jake, urging him to act. "Now!" Jake hissed, propelling himself out from behind the boulder. "Run!" They burst forth, small bodies racing toward the thicket as the men turned in a startled confusion. Jake kept Lily close, urging her forward, each step a desperate prayer for safety. Branches clawed at them, rustling underfoot, the forest swallowing their sounds. "Faster!" he yelled, his voice rough with urgency. The thicket loomed closer, and with it, hope surged. But just as they neared its shelter, Jake heard the sound of heavy footsteps pounding behind them. They hadn't lost their pursuers. Heart pounding, he glanced back, dread pooling in his stomach. The men were hot on their trail. If they didn't find cover soon. "Over here!" he cried, diving into the thicket, pulling the kids in right after him. They tumbled into the thick brush, panting and wide-eyed. "Please, please," Jake breathed heavily, closing his eyes for a moment, wishing for strength. "What if they find us?" One child whimpered, glancing nervously around. Jake opened his eyes, meeting the frightened gazes of the children. "We won't let that happen. We just need to be quiet and wait." The reality of their situation sank in deeply. Childlike trust surrounded him in the darkness, and he felt a glimmer of determination reignite within. "Should we call for help?" Lily whispered, but her tone was uncertain. "Not yet," Jake replied, tightening his grip on her shoulder. He could sense something changing in the air, a shift that heightened his instincts. As they held their breaths, hoping against hope, distant shouts echoed through the trees. Jake's heart raced anew, uncertainty clawing at him. Were those voices a part of the nightmare? Or could they be a beacon of hope they so desperately needed? Jake sat up straighter, all ears now. What would they find if they dared to make a sound? Would help arrive, or were they still being hunted? The world around them fell silent, and in that stillness, the next decision loomed large. Would they stay hidden or risk everything in a desperate call for help? The silence wrapped around them like a thick fog, a haunting stillness clinging to the air. Jake's heart beat in time with the distant shouts, every pulse echoing the uncertainty in his mind. He glanced down at the children huddled close, their faces pale and drawn, but still sparkling with the innocent hope of youth. He had promised to protect them. He had to act, and fast. Lily squeezed his hand again, her clear blue eyes searching his, silently asking if everything would be all right. "Jake?" she whispered, her small voice barely a tremor in the stillness. "What should we do?" Jake took a shaky breath, steadying himself against the heavy weight of responsibility. "We stay quiet for now," he said, keeping his voice low. "But if they get too close, we'll make a run for it. We'll find a way out." As he spoke, seconds stretched like hours, the sounds of chaos outside growing louder. Shouts mixed with laughter. It was hard to tell if they were friends or foes. Then, from the brush, a figure emerged. It was Mike, the disheveled man who had warned Jake. The look on his face was a mixture of relief and urgency. "I've got help," he breathed, scrambling toward them, eyes darting about like a bird seeking escape from an unseen predator. "What is going on?" Jake urged as Mike crouched down, still mindful of the children behind him. "Some of the parents got wind of what was happening," Mike explained, his voice hurried. "They're ready to back you up. We need to move them to safety, the kids, before it's too late." Before Jake could process this small glimmer of hope, shouts thundered nearby. "Where are they?" a voice called, the malice seeping in like fog into daylight. Jake's stomach twisted at the sound. There was no time left. "Now, kids. We go now," he commanded, adrenaline surging. With Mike leading and Jake pushing the children gently forward, they slipped from their cover, hearts pounding fiercely, all of them aware of the danger lurking just beyond. They moved quietly and swiftly through the maze of trees, following Mike's lead across a narrow trail beyond the thicket. The distant shouts faded into the background as they plunged deeper into the woods. As they reached a clearing, Jake turned to gauge the kids behind him. They were scared but still full of trust in him. That's when he realized he hadn't just become their protector, he had become their beacon of hope. Suddenly, laughter erupted again from behind them as the danger seemed close. The kids trembled, looking to Jake for reassurance. "Just a little further," he encouraged, willing more strength into his voice than he felt. As they rushed toward the edge of the woods, tension gripped Jake's shoulders like an iron weight. They needed an escape route, a way to cross into the safe embrace of the community that was finally rising to defend what they held dear. Up ahead, Mike pointed toward a distant structure, the community center. "If we can make it there," he trailed off, urgency creeping back into his words. "That's where we need to go," Jake exclaimed, steering the group into a swift jog. The children matched his pace, fear igniting their legs with newfound energy. Then there it was, the community center, its lights flickering on, welcoming them like a lighthouse in the storm. But just as they approached, chaos erupted behind them. "Stop them!" Voices bellowed, footsteps pounding closer. "Run!" Jake shouted, pushing Lily and the others forward. They dashed up the steps of the community center just as a wall of darkness surged behind them. Jake whipped around, instinctively shielding the children with his body as they fumbled for the door. The handle felt hot beneath his fingers. In an explosion of adrenaline, Mike flung the door open, and they rushed inside, tumbling into safety just as hands grasped at the air behind them. Breaths came fast and heavy, hearts racing as Jake turned to slam the door shut. "Lock it!" he yelled at Mike, whose actions mirrored Jake's own rising panic, but as the door came down, they were not met just with the shadows of their pursuers. A wave of community members surged forth. Parents, neighbors, friends. They had all come together, driven by the same urgency Jake felt inside. It wasn't just about saving one child, it was about standing for each other. "Jake!" echoed a familiar voice. It was Mr. Thompson, his expression stern and fierce. "You did it. We're here for those kids. We'll protect them." As panic filled every corner of the room, Jake looked around, seeing parents hugging their children close, relief flooding the air. Relief mingled with the remnants of fear still hanging just out of reach. With everyone assembled, Jake felt himself swell with a newfound sense of purpose and community. They weren't alone anymore. In this moment, hope and determination surged through him as he thought of Lily. "Let us find her," he urged, with newfound resolve. And there was Lily, arms wrapped tightly around her friend, both of them trembling but alive in that light-filled room. Jake rushed to her, enveloping her in a protective embrace. "You're safe now. I promise. And you're my hero." She beamed, her eyes sparkling through the remnants of fear. The community pushed back the darkness together. They would fight to protect their own, and Jake realized that resilience grew when shared. The doubts that had haunted him began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of belonging. He could stand tall now, not just for Lily but for the heart of his hometown. As the first dawn of their collective victory splashed golden rays through the windows, Jake looked out, knowing the storm had passed but awareness remained. Together, they would confront any darkness trying to encroach on their lives again. This was the moment to stand united, to rise together, and to never feel lost again. And as they solidly faced the new day, he turned back to the children, the movement of hope sparking in their eyes. This was family, the community he had always longed to protect, and together they would thrive. You need to subscribe now for the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, because your support matters. Comment below your feelings about this ending. We want to know how you're inspired. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.